This is Lockdown TV. It is Marawa TV, and another great interview that we're going to have in prospect with you. He's all the way in Dubai. He's a former Manchester United great. He's a legend of the game as well. Mr. Dwight Yorke, sitting up in his wonderful castle in Dubai. Good to chat to you, Dwight. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Rob. Good to see you, mate. I hope you're keeping well.
It's difficult times, my friend, and that is why we're touching base with you. Just wanted to find out, with the lockdown, coronavirus sweeping right across the entire world, what has that done to you? What has it meant to your change of your day-to-day life?
Well, I think that with the pandemic that is happening, as you said, on a global scale, it really gives us time to reflect on how good life were before this pandemic really comes into play. All of us, maybe including myself, maybe we take life for granted and didn't realize how important it is when to enjoy the freedom that we had and how to respect and try to help each other along the way. So this is just a stark reminder, although it's a painful one, that we only here for a short period of time, and we should appreciate what we have and be close to your loved one and continue to love other people and try to do good by others.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because it's about that humanitarian side of things. What fundamental changes has it brought to you personally? I know that it's brought so many different changes to everybody globally, obviously from a work perspective, from a travel perspective, from an interpersonal relationship perspective. What has it done to you? What's the one biggest thing that has changed?
Empathy. Empathy. Think of others, not just think about yourself, and just being appreciative of what you have as an individual. The love for your family and your close friends. I think that's important. You see more of the love that when you needed to be around people that you're close to. And I think this is just a stark reminder that life is such a short period of time that we all going to be on this face of the earth for, and you have to just enjoy the moment and enjoy the quality moment with your loved ones. And I think that's, for me, is what stood out in this most difficult time for us.
I know football's always been everything to you, Dwight. Manchester United, I did speak about your legendary status there in all 152 games that you played for Manchester United, all 66 goals that you scored there for them. But now it's all come to a stop and it's come to a halt, and others are in a bit of a frenzy, obviously wanting it to continue, and others are saying you've got to respect life beforehand. And we've been seeing the resurgence of Manchester United as well. What is your take just on the decisions that have been taken to put a pause on football?
I think it's the right one. I think it's the correct one. I think when there's a pandemic as big as this, we need to take stock. And of course, safety is paramount. And I think that's the health and safety of others as well, not just the players, but the fans globally. I think it's important that we have to work as a unit to make sure and overcome this pandemic. But in terms of, the sporting arena, we know how football is very close to so many people and touch so many people in different ways. But at the same time, we have to do what is right. And certainly with this virus spreading out of control, I do believe that the authorities and the footballing government and the bodies have taken the right step and the right measures in closing all sports and activity, not just from a footballing perspective, but from a sporting perspective as well, that they have done the right thing and tried to follow the guidelines. And I think football at this point in time has to be second best. We all want to get back out there and be active and be innovative and, having that social distancing and all that kind of stuff resurgent again. But I think right now at this present time, the way how this pandemic is, as I said, we're not having a vaccine for it. We have to seem to be doing the right thing, not just for the players, as I said, Rob, but certainly for everyone that is involved on a global stage.
Being a traveler yourself, and obviously Trinidad and Tobago being the center piece of Dwight Yorke and his growing up and his development, you're in touch with family back in TNT. How are they doing? How are they faring given what's going on globally?
Yeah, I think it's a worrying time. It's a worrying time for everybody. As I said, this pandemic has no control. It doesn't matter where you're from, how rich you are, how poor you are. It seems to have it's been out of control. And yeah, I'm very lucky that at this present time that my family are all well back in the Caribbean, all my friends that I'm in touch with, and thank God for social media. You know, the where we have been 20 years ago without social media. You know, having the contact, having this conversation with you via Zoom, it's important. So you know, I think that is also we are very lucky to have this technology available to us at the moment. So you can be in touch with your loved ones and see and have these face-to-face conversation rather than just a telephone conversation. So we are very blessed in that respect, and thank God for me, from my point of view, that my family and friends are all well at this point in time. But you know, make no mistakes about this, Rob, that this pandemic is causing devastation to a lot of families, and there are so many families out there that are grieving at this present time, and and it looks like it will continue for some time to come. So I'm reaching out to everybody to make sure that they're taking the right measures, um, follow the guidelines that we say, you know, the social distancing, staying at home, washing your hands, wearing face masks, all the requirement, go outside when it's only necessary, not go out when it's, you know, you feel like you've been stuck in your apartment or your house for that period of time and you need some fresh air. We all do, but you got to think of others, not just yourself, because, as I said, this uncertainty with this pandemic or with the virus is causing a lot of people a lot of panic at the moment. So you got to do the right thing, as I said, not just for yourself but for others as well.
And mentioning that comes football and comes global economics, Dwight. Uh, you probably hear the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, every evening saying in his press conferences that he wants life to return back to normal. He wants to open up the country to business again. Football has taken a firm stance, though, to say life matters most. Yes, some of the leagues were almost finished, others were nowhere near knowing who was going to win the league or who was going to be relegated or who was going to be promoted. What stance, if you were in a football leadership position, would you share to say this is the right way to go, given the fact that we don't know when everything will come back to so-called normal again?
I think it's a very delicate question, Rob, and the reason I have to tread very carefully here. Listen, life does matter, and without life, nothing matters. I understand that the president of the United States is eager to get things back, the economy. But for me, I would have been taking a stand as to what the Premier League is doing at the moment, where all activities are obviously taking a back seat at this point in time. And until they find a right way and a right way of coming back or bringing football back and bringing fans back, or whether the people who are they're talking about showing games behind closed doors. There's a lot of work to be done to get these people. It's still going to be people coming in contact with people, and until we are absolutely sure and people is going to be protected from it, um, then I'm afraid that football and every sporting activity has to take second fiddle. I understand there is an urgency to bring the economy back, and but with this pandemic and the kind of the number of losses that we are seeing and the death rate continue to rise. Every time you turn on the TV, there is more deaths. It's not, they're talking about flattening the curve, but yet you're seeing people are dying. And then, so the economy, in my opinion, I would not even contemplate about, they talk about a lot about testing people. And until the testing facilities are in place, then I'm afraid every sporting activity has to take a back seat at this point in time. And we always stress about safety is paramount. And I do believe, life does matter, and life has to be first above everything else. And then the economy can open up afterwards, in my opinion.
No, I mean it's a sober thought, and one's got to also give credit to your club, Manchester United, who at Old Trafford have seen where the word Manchester United lights up at night. They've dimmed
Yeah.
everything else. Have just left the NHS part, which I really thought, Dwight, is something significant in order to say to the frontline workers, the healthcare workers, that thank you so much. I mean, for all the good work that they've done, we don't say thank you enough.
Yeah, and this is a reality in itself, and that's why with this pandemic, it made us all look back and reflect. And it doesn't come as a surprise to me because at United they are class act. There are no other club like United. They do things differently. They see the initiative. They have always been appreciative of their fans and people in and around the society, and that is a glaring example of what Manchester United has always stood for. So to me, as an ambassador of the club and someone who's played at the club, that doesn't come as a surprise to me, and that's why Man United has always been a class above the other clubs. So yeah, you're correct. There are people who are risking their life for us out there. Frontline workers, as you mentioned, those people, the doctors, nurses, constantly you read the news. These people are losing their lives because they're going out there trying to help others, and sometimes they don't really have to do those things, Rob, but because people are there to help. And I think we as a society have to be appreciative of that. And I think we have gone away from that. I think, this is just a reminder to all of us that we all equal. Doesn't matter, if you're rich, famous, money. I think, decency and being elegant to people and being reminding that we all came into this world with nothing and we're going to be leaving with nothing. So I think this is just a stark reminder that people should remember that we all are equal. It's very painful to be going through where we are going through, so people can have a reminder of it. But I think this is God sending a clear message to all of us to say, listen, let's get back on track. Let's be decent human beings rather than just thinking of themselves.
Talking about thinking about yourself or themselves, I want you to think about yourself. Has this given you a bit of time, though, Dwight, to reflect on your illustrious career at Manchester United? Has it given you time to reflect on the glory moments, what made your era to be such a successful era, trophy-laden type of era? Talking about, I saw somewhere during the week where you were even praising a guy like David Beckham, saying that he was the best crosser of the ball ever that you've played with. The assists that he provided for you and vice versa. It was an incredible journey. Andy Cole, everybody else that was there, Roy Keane. It was an unbelievable time. It was an unbelievable era. Have you had time to now, when you're in lockdown, to think about those moments and what comes to fore as far as reflecting back?
Yeah, interesting, Rob. And it had to be a pandemic for me to be reflecting at this stage, and I did.
You're too busy, man. You're all over the world,
Yeah,
Dwight.
yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I never seen a game. I've never looked back in all my time of playing. I just, as you said, busy doing other jobs, working, flying, and I was very lucky to be busy after football. And yes, this pandemic gives me not all the time, but some of the time that I've been under lockdown for the past nearly 4 weeks here in Dubai. I've had moments where I've suddenly picked up the computer and thought, right, let me just have a little look because you finding ways of mean to have the time goes by each day because you in your household for such a long time. So you're finding other things that you find interesting. So I thought, yeah, let me have a little look at some of these games. I still haven't seen quite a lot, but I have to say I did look back. Maybe I seen two games in the treble winning year, and I look back at a couple of games at my Villa times. The good moments, of course, not all the bad moments. And yeah, so I had time to reflect, and then now I think, wow, after all these years of playing football, to be reflecting back and see where I've come, I was, and where I've gotten to as a player, and the achievement along the way and the challenges. Um, yeah, I'm very pleasantly surprised at how things have turned out for me. So, yeah, looking back at those fun years, especially at United, which was my most successful years as a player, and playing alongside all these quality players, you often think in today's game what these players were worth and where we would be as a team, and will we be wiping the floor with the likes of Liverpool right now, then you just kind of imagine what it would be like having these players playing alongside you. But it was definitely my best moments as a player, and certainly the most enjoyable time as a player. And of course, going on to winning those trophies as well was just the icing on the cake.
Just chasing on time, Dwight, the one issue that a lot of the Man United fans always ask is, what is Dwight Yorke's impression about the Manchester United now? I mean, obviously post Fergie, who did such a magnificent job, he had a whole array of coaches that came through, didn't last that long. Now you've had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer come through, and since obviously he took over, this is pre the contract. Everything was hunky dory, rosy. Then it went through a massive dip again, where people were starting to question his ability as a coach at that level. But it just seemed all of a sudden before the lockdown came through that Manchester
Mm.
United was starting to find their stride all over again. What's your assessment there, and where's Manchester United right now?
Well, I think you pretty much touched it all there, Rob. As I said, Ollie to us was a surprise package. Um, of course, but when he was given the interim job, he's done a fantastic job, and I think pretty much he had forced their hand in many respects, because a lot of people may not have thought Ollie was the right person from the very beginning. However, he was given an opportunity that I would be very happy if I was given that opportunity. I'm sure so many other people. But he went in and did a remarkable job in the first 13 games, where he won 11 out of the 13. So there and then he did what was required, and probably and achieved above what he might have thought he could have achieved while he went in there. So, based on that alone, United were forced to be given that job. But because he's done such a sterling job, they had to give him the job. Now, whether he was the right person or not, then that was irrelevant at the time. But because what he's done, the job was definitely his. So yeah, so when that all happened, from the interim to being the manager now, he had gone from being so successful, then he went through a mid-crisis time, as we call in football, that he really struggled. As you said, he really struggled. The team wasn't playing well. The key players wasn't performing for him. And the results certainly wasn't going for him. And of course, when you're at Man United, you're going to be, scrutinized. You're going to be judged based on result, on performances, and he wasn't getting any of that. But in the latter stage of the season, what we call the business end, he seems to have turned around, and I think that has to be. And then he got rid of a couple of players, people like Lukaku, and then obviously Sanchez, and then he having, once the transfer market was reopened, he needed to bring in somebody who could give them a lift or two. And I think it was a clever signing in bringing in. You there? I think
Yeah,
it was a. I think it was. I think it was a clever signing in bringing in certainly Bruno Fernandes.
Fernandez, yeah.
I think you're looking for a player that they needed something, they needed a lift, they needed something to happen. And since Bruno has come in, and of course, Ingala, sorry, um, came in, those two players seem to have steadied the ship somehow, and results starting to come back. However, as as the uh, as the table stand right now, we're not in the top four. So although he had managed to turn things around, people will still look and say, well, we're not in the top four. We're still outside of that top four level. So he still has that hanging over his head, although he has done much better now in the latter stage of the season. So I think the fans will, you're only going to be judged at the end of the season. You're not going to be judged, certainly the pre pandemic. So until that is done, and then they're going to reassess at the very end of the season as to how well he will be done. But it certainly looked like he wasn't going anywhere in the middle of the season. It looked like he'd come to a real standstill, and we were looking for answers. And since the introduction of those two players that I mentioned, United seems to have got another lift, and they looked like they were going to finish strong. But having said all of that, we're still not in the top four at this present time.
Very difficult to please everybody all the time, Dwight, but we're just
Yeah,
very happy that we're able to catch up with you, see you in the flesh, and see that you're still doing very, very well indeed. South Africans do miss you quite a lot, and I know you missing the golf as well. So hopefully one of these days things will ease on a little bit more. I want to thank you so much, my friend, and I really hope you stay safe. I hope your family stays safe. And I hope the rest of the world and everybody else that loves the beautiful game of football shows that humanity that you were talking about earlier on. And thanks so much for
yeah.
chatting to us on Marawa TV.
Thanks, Rob. I look forward to it. And as I said, I love your country. I love the people there. I love everything about South Africa, and I can't wait to return. So, in the meantime, you keep safe, and thanks for having me on your program.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. That is Dwight Yorke coming through live from Dubai. That is where he is on lockdown and just spending a few minutes with us here just to catch up and find out how he is coping. And it looks like he's doing very, very well indeed, in spite of everything else. And just a little bit of time to catch up on Manchester United. Of course, where would we be chatting to a legend without touching up on the latest that's happening on the Manchester United side? So that's it for another episode of Marawa TV. Keep it locked. Keep subscribing. Tell your friends about the show, and we'll keep entertaining you.